Hello and welcome to Politics Now. I am Mono Balagbogbo live in our studio in Abuja. Our focus tonight is on President Tinubu's 2 years in office and concerns surrounding the July 12th Lagos local government polls. So let's start with our first conversation. That's midterm review of Tinubu administration. We talked about this earlier on this morning right here on the front burner, and that conversation continues tonight. Our first talking point will focus on economic reforms, looking at stabilization or strain. We'll also talk about security and national unity, gains or gaps, and governance and public trust, building confidence or losing ground. And joining us to do this, of course, is our guest, Barrister Osigwe Ahmed Momo. He is a public affairs analyst, of course, a legal practitioner, like I earlier mentioned, and of course, a writer, but we'll come to him shortly. Also tonight on the show, we turn our focus to the July 12, 2025 Lagos local government elections. These elections are set to be held across the 20 local government areas, 37 LCDAs, and 376 wards. We're looking at the Lagos local government poll, with a focus on alleged suppression of publicity and electoral fairness. Our talking points looks at the allegations of suppressed publicity. What does that even mean? Legal, political, and electoral questions, and also public engagement and opposition strategy. Joining us later on for the conversation is Ambassador Moyoshore Badejo, a 2025 Labour Party candidate for Koshefo local government area in Lagos. He will be live with us tonight. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll get straight to the conversation and briefly review mid-term of President Tinubu's administration. To stay with us. So tonight we'll begin with the economic landscape. President Tinubu's administration has implemented significant reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidies and the liberalization of the foreign exchange market. While these measures aim to stabilize the economy, they've also led to increased inflation and cost of living. So let's take some time to break it down. We're looking at key statistics. Inflation rate at 23.18%. Food inflation at 23.51%, foreign exchange reserves at $40.87 billion, and national average approximately, that's looking at the price of fuel as at May, the average price for fuel across Nigeria is 849.50. This will vary depending your location. That is the current reality for Nigerians. Now, let's review some of the key things the president boasted about his 2 years in office so far. We'll start with the economic highlights. He talked about economic reforms and fiscal gains. That is, he removed fuel subsidy, ended decade-longs of subsidy freeing NPC to contribute to Federation account. On FX reform, unified foreign exchange windows to stabilize the Naira. Fiscal deficit dropped from 5.4% of GDP to 3.0% in 2024. Revenue, 6 trillion naira, generated in the first quarter of 2025 alone. And then IMF debt cleared reserves grew from $4 billion in 2023 to $23 billion in 2024. You look at tax reforms and inclusive growth, the president boasted about tax to GDP ratio increasing from 10% to 13.5% in 1 year, 0% VAT on food, education, healthcare, VAT exemption for rent, public transport, renewable energy, tax ombudsman introduced to protect small businesses. On the sectorial impact, let's start with the oil and gas and look at what the president said in his anniversary speech. He talked about rig counts up from 400% versus 2021. $8 billion in new investments committed, solid minerals, shift from raw exports to value-added policy, revenue rising, new processing plants emerging, health, 1,000 plus PHCs revitalized, 5,500 more on the upgrade, 6 new cancer centers, free dialysis, 4,000 plus free C-sections across the country. Health insurance coverage increased from 16 million to 20 million. Also, another thing the government is boasting about is education and youth. He talked about student loan scheme expanded via Nasani, which is now a tech hub, e-procurement, EV assembly, and female drone engineers. Those are some of the things boasted about. Innovating Niger, irrigate Nigeria, renewable energy, and park launch. And also food security. Let's look at some of the things the president boasted about. Aggressive local production support, thousands of tractors and farming pews deployed, rise and stable prices easing. On the sector of power and infrastructure, the president boasted about massive investments in solar off-grid transmission and generation, ongoing road projects across all 6 geopolitical zones, including the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, the second Niger Bridge Access Road, and the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano, and more. Let's go to security. The president boasted about improved intelligence operations and interagency collaboration. He also boasted about armed forces regaining control in the northwest, safer highways, and frequent rescue of abducted citizens. So I think I deserve a cup of water for this breakdown. Now, in conclusion, the president said the worst is behind us. The real impact of our governance is beginning to take hold, and together we build a stronger and more inclusive Nigeria. Now, beyond this administration's rhetorics, how are everyday Nigerians responding? What do people on the ground really think about this government's midterm performance? Well, our team right here in Abuja visited the streets to hear directly from citizens, and let's take a listen to how some of these policies are impacting the lives of Nigerians. We'll be right back, and Barrister Osigwe will break down all this for us. 2 years after taking office, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration remains a subject of national debate. While government officials point to reform and recovery, voices on the streets of Abuja reflect both praise and pain.
We have attacks from different places, but I think, to be candid with you, he's really doing his best and things will get better.
But not everyone is convinced. Some citizens say the human cost of these policies is too high and the suffering too widespread.
We are sovereign, let me say this. Because the Bible says, except the Lord wash the city, the watchman was in vain. But the issue of security, we are still facing a lot of challenge. And my advice to our leaders is to put more effort because people are dying lately.
Lugbe, house rent that people are paying 100,000 naira before now is 400,000 naira for self-contained. Then where are we going to? We are still saying.
Because removal has affected everything. Farmers going to the bush to bring food, source, the middleman bringing it. So you can't afford anything.
Others, like traders, have noticed minor improvements, but some others insist that deeper economic pain remains.
But for the past few months, we've been seeing some changes in terms of foodstuff and maybe the fuel and some other commodity being drastically reduced. I believe before his first administration, I believe he will catch up with our expectations.
For me, we might earn higher, but the value is lower. You understand? Like the money, you spend more. So no matter how much you make, you end up spending more. Unlike the previous years. When I say working, you are not paying me much. But I could buy shoe for 2K, foreign shoe, 3-5. But now I can't buy shoe for that amount. I want to buy a foreign shoe to be like 25,000 and more. So you spend more. So you might not buy so much on me, but. And for many like Moses Samuel, the concern isn't just about relief, but about whether the government is truly in touch.
For that, because Nigerians have been lamenting, Nigerians have been groaning, Nigerians have been lamenting. So I would say the government have not been listening in any form. Because what I know President Tinubu is also doing, he has turned deaf ears to Nigerians. He has actually decided to prioritize what he wants to do and leave the rest for the masses to suffer.
With 3 years left in his term, the president's challenge remains clear: restore trust, ease hardship, and deliver on the hope many pinned on him in 2023. Mono Balagubo reporting for LN 24/7 News. What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? The tussle for power,
an extremely problematic area.
the tension, the instability of the system. Join LM 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
The golden age of America begins right now. I will very simply put America first.
Watch Politics Now on LM 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
What makes the political system what it is today? All right, those are some of the responses from citizens in Abuja reacting to the president's 2 years in office. Barrister Osigwe is live with us from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, so let's start with looking at the economic landscape of the country 2 years on. How do you assess the current indicators with the fiscal deficit down to 3.0% of the GDP in 2024 and foreign exchange reserves at 23 billion, yet inflation is still persisting, slightly above 23% as at May 2025. I know you're not an economist, but of course you're familiar with at least the surface level of how it is really hitting hard. You saw how I listed a lot of things that the president highlighted during his anniversary speech that was released by his media team. So how do you unpack this after listening to some of those persons in the streets of Abuja?
Yeah, I mean, your experience is your best economic lesson. Nobody can cheat you, don't lie to you. What you see, what you feel, what you experience is personal. These are anecdotal experiences that, supersede any academic thesis out there, in the public, regardless of whatever is being brandished or being flaunted by, the supporters of this government. The reality is that we know that inflation is high, and inflation is an indirect tax on the citizen. So the moment, regardless of any improvement, perceived improvement, so long as inflation, government is taking your money loses the value that it ought to have compared to the international currencies, and you have less in your hand to spend. Anyhow you like it, you have less in your hand to spend, and this is especially unfortunate when we now have a situation whereby there's inflation on the left hand. On the right part, sadly, the government is still, going about, increasing taxation, increasing cost of everything from power to fuel to, no respite. Realizing that Nigeria is going through terrible inflation, the least you can do is to create some respite from maybe custom duties, from power cost, from fuel, and several other options out there. But no, the government is not subsidizing anything. Is not giving Nigerian any respite. Is throwing all the burden on the Nigerians and saying, "Hey, this is a difficult time. Swim across the sea. Swim as is a swim or sink situation." Many Nigerians are doing their best. We are very strong people. We're very resilient people. But the reality is that hope is what is driving a lot of Nigeria, not Nigerians right now. It's difficult for a lot of people. But we thank God that this is a very brave nation. Nigerians can swallow a lot, and they are swallowing this. And I know that a lot of us will survive as a nation. It's not an individual thing. You look at the pain out there. There are, people that simply could not do the basics they were doing before. It's quite a tragedy if you look at the Nigerian situation. And for the improvement that we're having, we have improved from what? From Tinubu to Tinubu. So the improvement is that
Once upon a time, it was worse under Tinubu. Now it's better under Tinubu. That's the improvement. Nobody's even comparing it with the terrible government of the terrible 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari. A terrible 8 years. So as terrible as that 8 years is, we're not comparing this government with that other one. And I agree, I must concede actually that there are some of these policies that sound on paper, but we're not living on paper, we're living in real life, and you have to have a human face to it. I think if I'm to floor the president, it's not necessarily that we're going through you know, a cooking period. You can say this is a time that we need to make the omelette, so we need to crack the eggs. It's a painful time, but we're not seeing it from the government. We're not seeing it from Mr. President himself. We are not seeing it from the number of people he decided to elect as ministers. In my opinion, he should stick to 37, 36 and most 37, as the constitution says. But we are getting to 40 something. With which money, sir? We are not seeing it with the level of the PAs. We are not seeing the salary slash over there at the executive level. We are not seeing it, sir. We're simply not seeing it with the cost of rebuilding unnecessary government buildings, buying, yachts and cars and private jets. It's just not, we're not seeing this.
And
You will
funny
start
enough,
with the
that is what Nigeria administration. Now, given the cost of living crisis triggered by the fuel subsidy removal, I mean, I could recall the president, making reference to the fact that our nation is, he said in his words, is on life support. And, David Boala has also reiterated that rhetoric that what the president is doing has just simply taken the nation out of life support. Now, are the government's economic reforms achieving their stabilization goals? And what measures can be done to address high fuel prices? Because the president boasted about, CNG buses and all of that. I mean, when you do the math of how evenly distributed are this CNG initiative, it is out there. There is no denying that fact. But how is it, how is that drive to push these efforts to curb the cost of transportation, which is clearly driving the prices of the goods that we are seeing?
Yeah, it's the cost of not just the cost of transportation, obviously being from the cost of fuel. Fuel is the life, power or the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. We don't have power in this country. So if you're going to run a hotel, if you're going to run a law firm, if you're going to run anything, you're going to have to rely on some sort of petroleum product, diesel or fuel. That's what we do in this country. So if you need to increase production, you're going to reduce the cost of production for the producers. And that doesn't come by, academic reforms. It comes by strategic, implementation. One of the strategy was to ensure that we would have lower power. We have comparative advantage in this field. And I think that the Nigerian government should aggressively, I even look probably porous, environmentally unfriendly, talking about subsidizing diesel, allowing the Nigerian economy to, especially the production firms, with very, affordable diesel. But I think that we have no option for now. You can't increase the cost of fuel and expect production to go up. It won't happen in Nigeria. For now, we don't have the luxury of, we don't have power in this country. We don't have power. Just take it that way. What we have is not is insufficient. It's not power. It's just a semblance of power. That's the reality. We can't rely on
Now,
Nigerian power to power this country. Yeah.
now, how are these economic changes,
So we,
including the projected 3% GDP growth, shaping public perception and support for the president in 2027? I mean, the president clearly got to just midterm, and in the midst of all this, so many endorsements. As we're speaking now, there's speculations, conversations about governors who are in the opposition, pulling all of their structures together in support of the president, just barely 2 years into these administrations. So let's talk about public perception of this administration. You have the perception from the political elites and the average Nigerian. So what's going on here? Because you would think that the opposition will rally behind the masses at this particular critical time to challenge the government to do so much more. But all we've seen this past few days, has just been a whole lot of solidarity with the president, confidence in his administration. So as that may not be a bad thing for some people, do you think that will spur the president to do much more around the economy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're giving the president a very loud vote of confidence. He probably doesn't realize how difficult it is for, this is not the first time we've seen an emperor without clothes. Yet his servants and his assistants keep telling him, "Sir, you are the best dressed. Everybody is amazed at your attire. You're well dressed. You're the best out there." Whereas you're simply naked. Nigerians can see through this. We see that all the politicians can line up behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Unfortunately, the ordinary men on the street won't right now. They won't. And again, I'm not saying that these policies are all sad. I'm saying that the way they are thrown to the Nigerian people to swallow, whereas the elite seem to be on a jamboree, a spree. Like this particular situation where everybody's running around Mr. President, where there's chronic hunger. And I'm not just talking of hunger. Hunger is bad, but there are some things worse than hunger. Lives. There are people who are in their villages now. There are people in IDP camp begging the federal government to just allow them go back to farm so that they can fend and feed their family. That's all they're asking for. Can I go back to my farm? They can't. Farmers can farm in Benue. Farmers can farm in many parts of Kaduna in the plateau. And you are telling me that this is so we should stop making jokes about this. Things are difficult for a lot
you
of
seem to be
Nigerians.
delving into security. President Tinubu claims of progress, I beg your pardon, in the Northwest versus reports of over 10,217 deaths from violence since May 2023. So when you adjudge performance, they talked about intelligence gathering, improved infrastructure regarding the military. But these are the same challenges. I mean, in the light of all of this, the borders of our country has been blamed, severally. Anytime you hear government spokesperson, including governors, speak, especially those in Benue State and Borno State, the borders is really key. And you look at 50 years of ECOWAS, I mean, these are the surrounding countries where insecurity thrives. And you ask yourself, we have ECOWAS as a body that's, our neighboring countries. So this issue of insecurity is still of key concern. So what is your take on the root causes of these ongoing banditry and communal clashes? And how can the administration foster national unity through initiatives like the Values Charter plan for the first quarter of 2025? But your take on the issue of insecurity first.
No, my take on insecurity, it hasn't improved and it can improve. It can. If Mr. President cannot do this job, please, can you resign? Can we find somebody that can? I believe that a responsible and a responsive government can solve this crisis in 6 months at most. This is not rocket science. This is not the first time we have seen countries having little issues. So don't deceive us. There was El Salvador. A president realized that, look, I can come and clean the whole thuggery out of the country and the craziest cult group, and he did it. And what was impossible was done. President Bukele of El Salvador, it's an example of a president who has intention. He will do it. The president's intention is, I don't know if he knows what is happening. How difficult are you talking about? The Nigerian army is not a joke. If you allow them, equip them with what they have, they will solve the security crisis. I believe this very firmly. So I think that there's a lot of lip service. There's not enough, understanding or attention paid to security. Security is terrible. It's as bad as it is. I don't believe that there's any improvement at all. And what defines improvement? Oh, you were killing 1,000 people, you're now killing 800. Is that improvement? That's not.
Now, sorry to cut in,
Osigwe.
you look at some of the bills regarding insecurity at the National Assembly. You have the Forest Guards, which is an initiative the president had suggested prior to when he came into office. And the military has always thrown this idea that we have ungoverned spaces. And that is why we still see persistent insecurity in the country. You also look at the workforce of the security operatives, either military or Air Force, whatever it is. That is also there. And also the issue of state police, which is still being contested. So the president calls for patience amid some of these innovations. But do you have faith that he can actually deliver? And we've seen motions,
sir.
come from the president and gets approved swiftly, passes through the House of Rep, passes through the Senate.
Yes.
But when you look at these bills that are still within the legislative process, and the delay, what's your take?
No, I'm sorry to I'm not going to buy this a bit. I understand how this thing works, and we have history by our side. A few months ago, the United States southern border was overwhelmed with migrant crisis. The English was, we need more bills, we need more. It then came on in less than 100 days, made the border one of the safest in years. When there's a will, there's a way. We don't need any more laws. It's not about having forest guard, which I support, mind you. It's not about having state police, which I personally support, mind you. What the laws we have, whatever we have on ground, is enough to tackle this crisis. And when we talk about the rest ECOWAS sub-region, I don't know. I think by far we have the longest lasting crisis. So we probably may be the exporters of this crisis to other countries if we're being fair. Do you get? So it's not a matter of that, hey, they are overwhelming us. Like Boko Haram has been here for too long. It's becoming, we're not going to live with this. We can't live with it. This has to stop. Madness has to stop. We are tolerating this nonsense. One of the problems of Nigeria is our ability to tolerate nonsense. And this nonsense is too long. This is a stoppable thing. Who are we dealing with here, for crying out loud? Explain how bandits and a group of ragtag army want to overwhelm the Nigerian government for how many decades, for crying out loud? So I believe that if we told all the presidents that on all the executive member no salary until this is done, maybe these people will fix the issue we have at hand. This is not that deep. I believe strongly. I believe that this is something that can be solved very well with all that we have. I don't believe that this is something that can overwhelm the Nigerian army. So there's a lot of course it hasn't been solved, but it's not an impossible task. It's something that can be solved. It can be solved if Mr. President wants to solve it. He will go back, and if this is the only thing he does, he has done well. So Nigeria will never work until we end insecurity. There is no way President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have a successful government until it ends at tackling security. Every other thing you are doing, you are wasting our money and our time. Focus on the elephant in the room. Nigerians are dying in me. Blood is being shed. Injustice is crying out to heaven, for crying out loud. So where are you going to get justice from? I mean, are you going to fix this country? People can't travel at will. Farmers can't even do the basic farm to feed their family. They're not asking you for anything. They're saying, I want to go to my farm that my ancestor gave to me, my father gave to me, and farm and fed my family. And these people have been murdered anyhow, killed and battered by a group of what? For crying out loud. This is unfair. Most of these communities can defend themselves if you give them arms. So where are we? So there's nothing that will do that will make any sense, and we know the results. As soon as insecurity goes, food stuff will start crashing. That's one of the first things we will see, and it will help the government in the long run. So I think that any other thing we are doing is paying lip service to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. People can come around him, the political class can, coalesce around him and assure him that he has done all that is well, not for the regular man of the street. Yes, kudos, good policies, good plan, everything looks fine on paper. Out here in the open, in the field, if Mr. President wants to hear the truth in case everybody's lying to him, it stinks. They are
You know what,
starving Nigerians
Osigwe,
every
I do
day.
recall
It is
earlier on
difficult
in
for
the
a lot of Nigerians.
administration where they put up this digital platform where Nigerians can actually go and give a scorecard according to sectors. That initiative seems to have died down. But let's talk on governance, because you actually touched about that when you were calling for the rejigging, of his cabinet, which he did during his one-year anniversary in office. So you're looking at the governance climate, considering initiatives like the ministerial scorecards and criticisms
Yes.
of democratic adherence from opposition parties. Now, it's just 2 years in, the whole controversy surrounding Governor Fubara's suspension and also the lawmakers. I mean, that's heavily contested. And so many other issues too in the country regarding governance, the number of ministries and the scorecard for ministries. Now, looking at his first year anniversary, he rejigged the ministers. Those who were not performing, some were removed and they were replaced. So at this point in time, when you look at the team he has, do you think that the president should do more of that in terms of getting some people out, bringing some new people in? And which of some of these ministries will you say are not functioning up to par?
No, I think one of the first things we realized is that this was a political list. This was not a list of technocrats in that sense. And that was the first vibe that came out from this list. It seemed like there was a lot of political consideration. That's not the feel of a man who we believe want to fix this country. You're supposed to blind your eyes to politics, pick the people who have the, you know, ability to fix this country to the best of your knowledge, and as much as possible divorce the federal executive from politicking. But that didn't quite happen. And if you put a typical politician, the politician will find means to entrench his own political crowd, is following. It's a matter of each politician knows that, oh, I need to deliver my state in next election. This is a tradition that Nigerians have had for a long time. So regardless of how many people you put out there, you can't really say how this is. Some ministers have actually fared very well. I give the FCT minister a great score mark, as controversial as he is. It's obvious that he's done a great job in Abuja out there. The aviation minister, I hear he's doing well, but I assure you, a few days I just got to the airport from I landed international airport. First first thing that greeted us was that the bathroom wasn't working. Like the water in the bathroom was so all the international people coming to Nigeria, all the visitors, the first experience is that there's no water in the Nigerian bathroom. The
The
next experience is that there's
embarrassment.
no Wi-Fi. It's the shock. There's no Wi-Fi in international airports. So and this is a basic. This is so basic. It doesn't happen in any part of this world. And you can compare us with Ethiopia. Where had a connecting flight, and it's just shocking how I don't think Ethiopia it has half of what we have. But you will just see the organization, you will know that this country is ready to progress. And NEPA sees light again in the same place. All the ACs were not work. You see, the truth about Nigeria is that it's not just that we are just piling complaint. There is a nature of inefficiency around the government and governance. And you can really look left, right, and center. You can really see excellence, being packaged as the Nigerian. This is what Nigerians are known for individually. There are several Nigerian brand and businesses that have packaged excellence and sold it globally. And a lot of people can associate Nigeria with excellence. But when it comes to the government, it seems we always have mediocrity. Some level of plunder mentality. It's sad. I'm not happy to want to castigate my country. I love my country very much, crying out loud. This is the only country that some of us are going to jackpot.
That's
This
right.
is what this is where we're going. This is where we're going to be. So we want to see it work. It's just so sad the way we just. So my point is, there is a little bit here and here where it's working. Where I'm not satisfied. There's no. The FCT minister, like I said, aside the FCT minister, I don't really know any other minister or ministry that I can say, he has done so fantastic things have so improved. I don't know any. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it, and it's just all about that. I feel there's so much politicking, so much interest in 2027, and nobody's really caring about, leaving a lasting legacy. So I think the entire government is just one of plunder. Let's hold power. That's just the mindset I'm getting
Okay,
from the
so
political
as we
climate.
wind down the conversation quickly, how can the administration improve transparency and rebuild public trust? Frustrations over economic hardship and perceived favoritism in governance. I say this because it's just 2 years and there's still 2 more years, so there's still a lot that can be done within these 2 years. So as we wind down the conversation and move to our next segment, what would you advise the Tinubu-led government to do?
No, but I'll look at the favoritism. I don't see it. I don't see any perceived favoritism. I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is fair. Many of the people who are shouting for favoritism last 8 years of Buhari, they were numb and silent. So I don't understand why many of them are political players who have lost out. So they are just the same thing out there. So I don't. Sometimes when people criticize Tinubu, I'm his biggest defender because it's about 10 and 10 pence. It's two sides of the same coin. This government and any other government that we've had in the last couple of years. So they are basically the same thing. So it's not like so basically I'm going to dismiss that favoritism out. I think what President Tinubu needs to do more than anything is to start from himself. He can actually run this government and say, I'm not collecting 1 day salary. Donald J. Trump didn't collect a day salary in the last administration. I don't know about now. I don't believe, in my mind, I don't believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs this money. I don't think that this is the biggest thing. He can start by
Well, he's
cutting
on
the cost of
record that he's very rich, so he's here to save the nation and not here to actually
Exactly.
amass wealth for himself.
Exactly
But that time
my
is
point. He
almost
can
up,
start there.
Osigwe. We'll have to go. And of course, the conversation continues.
Thank
We have
you.
a full week to continue to examine the president's midterm. I mean, it's been quite a ride. Thank you so much, Barrister Osigwe Momo, for being with us on the show.
My pleasure being here. God bless you.
All
Thank you.
right. Okay, so this midterm review highlights critical economic, security, and governance challenges. The path forward demands strategic adjustments and commitment to Nigeria's well-being. Well, that's the much we can take on the conversation. We'll go on a break quickly, and when we come back, we'll turn to something that is brewing in Lagos, Nigeria, regarding the local government elections. Ever since President Bola Tinubu, via the federal government, ruling in favor over the state governors on local government autonomy, the tussle and the politicking at that particular level of governance is really intriguing. And tonight we're looking at alleged suppression of publicity and electoral reforms. Ambassador Bodeje will be live with us shortly. Do stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
The golden age of America begins right now. I will very simply put America first.
Watch Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Hello back and welcome to the show. This time around we shift gears to discuss Lagos local government poll alleged suppression of publicity and electoral fairness. Well, yet beyond the numbers and dates, deep concerns are emerging about transparency, legal compliance, and crucially public awareness. The Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission, LASIEC, has released the election timetable, but many stakeholders, including opposition voices, say the process lacks visibility and engagement. Let's give you a rundown of our talking points. We're looking at allegations of suppressed publicity, legal, political, and electoral questions surrounding the poll, and public engagement and opposition strategy. Joining us tonight on the show is Ambassador Moyosore Badejo, the 2025 Labour Party candidate for Koshofa local government area in Lagos State. Of course, Ambassador Moyosore is live with us. He is the Labour Party candidate for Koshofa local government, and he is raising an alarm tonight over what he describes as a deliberate lack of publicity and awareness by the ruling APC-led government. So let's dive into the issues. Ambassador Badejo, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
It's nice to have you here also.
You allege that the Lagos State government and LASIEC are deliberately failing to publicize this election. What is the basis for this claim?
conversation about this thing has been long overdue, and I'm very happy to be having this conversation with you today. I think what we're seeing by the LASEC, it's a deliberate action, to suppress other parties, opposition parties, by favoring the incumbent parties, because lately, elections are just less than 1 month away, but there's been no publicity, nothing about the elections, so that, they can favor the incumbent, which of the structure. So to me, I feel LASEC is being biased with their whole operation.
All right. Now, so what has been the response from LASIEC or the APC to these concerns as of today?
So I would say, the APC, based on the fact that they're still having a little, their selection process, which is not even meant to be like that. When I say selection, I mean, normally we know how this thing works. There's meant to be a primary before every election within the party. So basically, they're still trying to, do all their, how I say this, the usual thing we all know them for, trying to, select candidates and not give even the party member the candidate they want. So basically, in my area, for example, which is Kotrafa local government, there's been a little awareness about the election, even by the incumbent, because they're still trying to do inner party politics. So there's no awareness about this election generally. And even we, the opposition party, there's been a lot of problems in terms of our posters being, removed, being torn by, their talks which you always use in the community.
Your local government area regarding voter education or awareness and campaigns, how are the people responding towards this particular election?
So first of all, the voter awareness is seriously very, very low. And when I say it's very low, is so anytime I go out for a little campaign, I'm doing a door-to-door campaign, which is also called mosquito campaign. So anytime I go for this campaign, people ask questions, please, when is the election? Well, like a general election that everybody knows the date because everybody's looking forward to that election. But wherever I go to, out of 10 people I see, I have to answer 9 people about the date of elections. And that's why for part of my campaign material I did, I had to put the election dates on the campaign material so that, to allow a lot of people to be, informed about the forthcoming election. It's been very low. And also on the part, they've been visibility, I mean, in campaigns or community engagement, there's been nothing. So it's a very, very sad situation right now. But and I feel like I'm asking this question: is the silence a strategy by the incumbent, or what exactly is the issue? Why there is no awareness about this forthcoming election? And people need to understand that the local government elections are the most important election because that's the grassroots, and and they are the people we can easily see. So I feel like Nigerians should be more informed and be aware about the local government election because that is where the change starts from. And if you want change, this change starts from the grassroots. And but then it's been not to write to me about from LASEC, it's been really poor.
Indicated that this lack of awareness might be strategic to suppress voter turnout and favor the APC. So why do you believe this benefits the ruling party, and what precedents or trends supports this claim?
So first of all, the ruling party benefits from the structure. When I say structure, I mean in terms of, so for example, when it comes to campaign material, election materials, for example, LASEC was to release the guidelines for election, which normally it's meant to be released 90 days before an election could hold. But LASEC basically, they had to, obviously they've been talking with the ruling party because they will release April, and it's meant to be 90 days before. They released it exactly 90 days to the election. What does that mean? Definitely, it's going to give us a short time to actually really plan for this election. And also on the incumbent side, if the awareness is low, they have the structure, they have the people in the local, for example, the local government, for example, there are over 100 people that work in the local government. So if those people are aware about the election and we are even in the council don't know about the election, what does it mean? The council members alone, people in the council are enough to even vote for the ruling party. So that's why I'm saying that there is foul play between the LASEC and the incumbent government.
All right, now, so let's move to some of the legal, political, and electoral questions surrounding this election. And the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, recently raised concerns that the July 12th date may violate the Electoral Act. So my question is, do you share these legal concerns, and what impact could this have on the legitimacy of the elections, given the fact that I mean, if it's convenient for you and other opposition party members?
Been because dealing with what is happening right now, the incumbent that I know is expired June, which is this month. So any election that takes place, far the completion of that term is not an election because that tenure is expired. So even it had to hold before the expiration of that tenure, not even after that tenure. So I feel, and we've been all, anticipating this election, and with proper plans by political parties, because our political parties are not the same in terms of our plans. But for example, my Labour Party, for example, we know that this election is going to come anytime soon. So what we've been doing is, since we didn't get the guidelines, for example, during January, we're saying, okay, if election is going to hold, we know what the guidelines are released by LASIEC is going to take 30 days, 90 days minimum for we to plan the election. So every month as time goes by, which I've been trying to plan for the election time. So so about planning, it's a good one. There's no problem. We're fully prepared for the election. That's for Labour Party.
Legalities. There's also the perception that LASIEC lacks full independence, given appointments are state controlled. Do you believe LASIEC is acting as a neutral arbiter, or has the process been compromised?
Thank you for this question. To me, LASIEC is compromised because we had an issue which happened about 2 weeks ago, which was towards the period of the end date for the submission of LASIEC forms. So basically, my leader, shout out to the Queen of Lagos, Dayo Ekong, Lagos State Labour Party's, chairman of Lagos State Labour Party chairman, and also Sam Okwala, for the very good work they did for us. So before the election period, they've been having correspondence with a particular fraction, which is actually the legitimate fraction, which is Dayo Ekong and Sam Okwala's fraction. Towards when after the guidance had been released, LASIEC came up with an excuse that they cannot release the LASIEC forms to the legitimate chairman based on 3 other fractions came to LASIEC. The question is, within the election period, who have you been speaking to? You have been speaking to Dayo Ekong, Sam Okwala, which is that fraction you have recognized. But all of a sudden, LASIEC has come up with different excuses. They cannot drop the LASIEC forms for us because they're different fractions. We really tried to, make us unstable during like the last 2 weeks. And the deadline for the submission of the form was a day before when this happened. They told us that, oh no, they can't give us the forms because different fractions came. So luckily for based on the fact that we've been planning, they had to tell us to get a letter from INEC, Abuja, which we did, and but I feel LASIEC is they've been compromised because word on the street keeps saying, oh, LASIEC, they'll definitely write the elections of the local government, different things, but it's not something we're going to be scared about because this is democracy, and and the democracy means everybody can do their own thing. So we're ready for the election, but LASIEC, to me, they're compromised, and they're working in favor of the ruling party, which is the APC government.
All right, so let's talk primaries within your party. Has the Labour Party been able to run a transparent and inclusive candidate selection process across local government areas? Because you just made that claim about the APC not being able to do that. It's just basically a selection and not really an election.
Yeah, definitely. We did that, and where we use delegates. So each ward had their own delegate that picked up the candidate. For example, in my own ward, we had 10 delegates each for the election process, and we also wrote letters to LASIEC to come and observe our process, which they also did during the last election. For the APC, it was more of a consensus than an election. It was more of a selection than even an election. A candidate was picked, by the whole the godfather, the rulers of the party, which is something that we don't take in the party. It's qualified and good. If you have the votes, you get voted for, you carry the party's flag.
So what strategies is the Labour Party in Lagos deploying to counteract what you see as media silence or what some people may call state control? And if so, how do you intend to mobilize turnout in your ward and across Koshofa local government area in Lagos so that people can turn out en masse?
And so we've been doing grassroots campaigns, which is door to door, market to market, town hall meetings, and also we've been engaging digital tools like WhatsApp, social media, and community radio trying to let people know about the election, and also, going to churches, mosques, not people that we can reach out to, tell them the date of the election and making them understand, creating groups, put community members in a group, letting them know the people that have the PVC and they are able to vote. So I've been having constant engagement with the general community.
So, lastly, do you believe that there is a risk for voter apathy with this election?
For now, I really can't say. But as time goes on, we'll keep on, putting our eyes down to see if that can be. But on the scale of 50, I think it can be. Yeah, it can happen.
Ambassador Badajo, what is your assessment of what is going on in your local government area at this time? And how is that influencing you, or I think the word is inspiration, how is it inspiring you to bring something new to the table as you are contested in this particular election?
So I said my agenda is very simple. It's called the SEED agenda. The S stands for security and safety. The first E stands for education and empowerment. The other E is for environmental sustainability, and the last D is for deliberate dedication. So coming on board, I'm going to bring about new security measures. Also work hand in hand with the local government chairman to bring about empowerment to minorities community, and also look at the standard of education within my community in terms of classrooms, conducive at these classrooms, in terms of writing materials, in terms of the development of students. Try to reach out to the school and listen to questions from the students about their nearest needs and concerns. And also, I would be bringing about environmental sustainability, which is greener people. I'm somebody that really loves a greener space, and unfortunately, I'll be working hand in hand with the community leaders for us to turn our waste to wealth, by having a general recycling, bringing recycling together, and let people know the usefulness of recycling and how we can use our waste to solve problems within the community. And I'll be very, very accessible. I'll be dedicated to the people that I've been called to serve. Thank you very much.
All right, that is something that you politicians always say, but good luck to you. But before we go, what is your take on the ongoing debate that INEC should take over the conduction of local government polls? Do you think INEC can do it in a transparent manner and also in a credible manner as compared to LASIEC? Well, here you are talking about LASIEC and faulting them on not really being transparent and open to the public just ahead of the 12th of July elections.
To me, I feel INEC should step in, not more LASIEC. INEC should step in, and even if INEC is going to step in, it was going to be saving ourselves, because both INEC, both LASIEC, they're not independent body. These things, and it's blaring already. So, but what I clamoring for is an election process whereby in each ward, after every election in each ward, the results transmitted immediately. Without that, we cannot have a fair and fair election in Nigeria. If after an election, it has to be taken through the manual process of taking it to a conference center to go and arrange the results, we can never have a free and fair election in Nigeria. Every election process in each ward, let the result by beavers be transmitted immediately. With that, we can have a fair election in Nigeria. But for me, LASIEC is not independent. They are all elected by the Lagos state government for for this election purpose. But for INEC, INEC is not better than even the LASIEC. But with INEC, if we don't have by the results are being then immediately after every election in each ward where I'm voting, after passing the vote, the result transmitted immediately. Without that, Nigeria would never, see a fair and fair election.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time, Ambassador Gbadebo, and of course, good luck to you on the elections, of course, on July 12th. And I do hope that some of the concerns you raised tonight, LASIEC can actually come on the show, or making an open invitation for them to come on the show and clarify with some of the claims that you've made tonight on the show. Many thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a nice day ahead.
Concerns over fairness, publicity and voter engagement are crucial as Lagos prepare for local government polls. Well, as citizens, our right to vote is also a responsibility regardless of party awareness and participation. These are the cornerstones of our democracy. Do join us next week for more insights into Nigeria's democratic journey. Once again, my name is Morno Balagogbo. Good night and thank you for watching.